Hi again, everybody. Wasn't that amazing? I think as Alejandro kind of touched on, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, I really stick on that one. So the next person we're going to talk about growing your customer base on a budget. And if you want to know a secret, you can successfully set up and scale your marketing with no budget. I know, seems strange. Listen carefully. How do you do it and how to do it properly? So here to provide exclusive advice that you can't get anywhere else is the one and only co-founder and head of marketing at Branch, Mada Seghete. I hope you join me in welcoming her. Thank you.
All ready? Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here today. So I'm Mada, and I'm going to talk to you about, I lead marketing at Branch, and we are a startup. We grew over the past few years quite a lot. And I'll talk to you about some of the things that I started in my early days with very, very little budget, right? We were just getting started. We didn't have that much money, and this is what we did to grow. So a little bit about me. Obviously, some of the most important keystones in my life, being born. And then I actually don't have a marketing background. So I started Branch, but my background was in engineering and product. So I took a very different approach to growing and building a marketing team, and also with some of the things that we did. So the other thing that's important to know is we started Branch. Branch was actually the fourth idea that my co-founders and I worked on. We actually started with Fitbit for dogs, and then we did a photo book printing app. Then we tried a printing SDK, and then we got to Branch, which is a mobile linking solution, in 2014. So what is Branch? We're the linking infrastructure for some of the world's best apps. We're used by over 50,000 apps around the world. And this is a little bit of our initial growth, just so you kind of have a background of how we scaled and the range that we got to today. So we started very small, and we're over 6 billion unique sessions a day. So this talk is going to be all about the experimentation and how we use two different experiments to grow Branch. So what's really experimenting? It's really trying something new and without actually being sure of the eventual outcome. And that's very important. So you get started. People are going to tell you, hey, I tried this and this worked for me. When you try those things, they might work for you or they might not. And I'll talk about 2 successful experiments, but we also had dozens of unsuccessful experiments. So it's important to understand that these things might or might not work for you. So you have to try things, measure them, have KPIs, and then understand what's going to work or not. And also, the other very important thing is, as your company starts growing and the amount of data we collect, actually the willingness to experiment starts decreasing. So I see myself every day investing more and more effort in the things that worked in the past, and being more reluctant to trying new things. And I have to pinch myself and say, no, the biggest things that work for Branch are actually those risks that we take, those experiments, those things that no one else did. So it's important that you think the same way. And when you find one thing that works, you don't just invest in that, but you actually go after things that maybe you haven't tried yet. So what we do is actually have a fixed portion of our budget that we put on experiments. And I suggest that you do the same. Maybe you see that paid ads work really well for you. Make sure that you have a portion of your budget that's not for paid ads, that's for trying new things, because that's the only way that you actually have that edge in the market and do things that your competitors are not actually doing. So the 2 experiments I'm going to talk about that we did with almost 0 budget and that have a huge impact on our lead generation are our community and our blog. So I'll talk a little bit about each of them and how we did them both with literally spending almost nothing, and what an impact it has done for our marketing. So who is our community? We started something called the Mobile Growth Community. And we started in our very early days when we were just, I think it was the 4 co-founders and we had 2 engineers. And I remember we went and we met with some guy from Greylock. And he said, hey, you should find a topic and then just own it and use it as a lead generation. So we started these meetups about 4 years ago. And this is where we've done them all over the world. We have a cadence in each of those places. And we tested with a lot of different places where we do them. And we don't do them everywhere anymore. In some places, we realized that it's really hard to build a mobile growth community. And in other places, they really thrived. So we have over, I guess here it says 25,000, but we're probably close to 30,000 people who come to our meetups and who are part of our community today. So these are some lessons that we learned while experimenting with building this community. So number one, we started simple. All of you out there who are just getting started, it's really hard to start a meetup or to start doing events, right? We didn't have an events team. It was just me doing marketing, and I didn't have that much experience in marketing. But I decided, someone said, you should try this out. And I said, OK. And actually, on the way back from that VC meeting, my co-founder and I were in the car, and we actually started in the car the mobile growth meetup group in San Francisco. And it was very simple. We just put it out there. We started promoting it. We didn't do any ads or anything. We told all our friends about it. And this is the picture from one of our first events. We actually reached out to people who were interested in mobile growth. And we got this guy, John Egan, from Pinterest. He was one of our first speakers. And he was very well known in the mobile growth community. None of us knew him. We just asked him, hey, we're doing a meetup at this incubator in Palo Alto. Are you willing to come? And he came. And we had a few hundred people. We had pizza and beer. And literally, there were like, I think, 4 or 5 pizza venues. And we called them all, and we're like, which one has the cheapest pizza that we can get? So we got the one that had 2 for 1 on that particular Tuesday. And we went to Safeway. We drove, my co-founder Mike and I, and we got the beer. And it was just very simple, right? We got our entire company, which was 6 people, to help do registrations and people coming in. And it worked, right? We had about 300 people that were now starting to learn about Branch, in addition to mobile growth. And then we started doing it more and more. We eventually, I think after 6 months, hired an events person. But we started very, very simple. And then the other thing that's important is that we found a topic others were interested in rather than a topic that most benefits our brand, right? So Branch was a linking infrastructure. But it was all about all the things that you could build with our links were like referral program, personalization, and all of them were related to mobile growth, but it wasn't really like we weren't, mobile growth consultancy. We were just one of the tools you could use as you build your mobile growth strategy. But we thought that this was a general enough topic that if we started a community around it, that the people would come. And it was true, people did come. And the meetups were not meetups about Branch. We would bring speakers to talk about mobile growth and things that work for them. And they helped us, right? We got all those leads. We actually got to engage with all the people that come. And they started perceiving Branch as a brand that was actually related to mobile growth. And it started helping build brand awareness for our company. So this was kind of the brand that we created, and it was a different brand than Branch, and it's obviously powered by Branch, but that was very small. And the brand itself was slightly different. Then the third lesson is that consistency is key. So you can't just like start one meetup and then do a meetup a year later and think that you're actually going to have a community. You have to keep going, and you have to have a cadence, and people would need to know what to expect. So we started our mobile growth meetups, and we actually came up with a cadence for every city. And the cities we started a meetup and then never came back actually didn't do that well for us. But in San Francisco, we do them every month. People know about it. They have the same format. Everyone knows what to expect. We actually have about 30% of people who come to these events are returning users. They've been to a meetup before. They really liked it. They learned something, so they keep coming back. So it's important that once you try it and it works, you don't give up. You actually keep doing it, and you have to build a certain side of consistency. The other thing is you have to build your audience. So if something works somewhere, it doesn't mean that it will work the same in every region, right? So for us, I'll give 2 pretty different examples, SF versus Bangalore. So our audience was very different. In Bangalore, this is a picture of a meetup that I actually went to. It was all developers. So when you talk about mobile growth, it's all developers. So we had to make our meetups more technical. The people who came to our meetups and the audience needed to be the same. So the speakers, we started inviting more engineers and product managers, versus in SF, is actually all marketers. Well, not all marketers, but like 60% of our meetups are a lot less technical. So there are people trying to grow more, less through product experiments and more to like spending money in different ways. So we might have to make sure that the speakers in SF were not all technical because our audience wasn't. And then the other big lesson that I learned from building a community is that it's a beast you can guide and evolve, but not really change and control. So after a few years of these mobile growth meetups, we're like, well, but a lot of the people coming don't know about branch. Maybe we should like create branch meetups. We're really good at doing meetups, right? Like in our SF, people, we have on average 200 to 300 people. We're good at doing this. We've done them all over the world. Let's make them all about branch now. Well, that didn't work. So we started this branch user group, and we promoted our first meetup in SF, and it had 15 people came, and we're like, okay, we can't use our community to promote ourselves. And I think that's one of the really big mistakes that people do. They start a company, and they're like, we're going to do a meetup, and it's going to be about us. Well, in a lot of cases, people don't care as much about your company until you're like really big, and everyone already uses your product. So user groups only work for like big enterprise companies. If you're a startup and you want to do events, they can be user groups. They should be something that's slightly general and related to your business, where you can educate people about your business, but it can't just be about your business. So we stopped. The branch user group stopped. We're going to wait a couple more years until we're bigger. And then the other thing is you can actually use this to promote other things. So we had, we launched this app launch checklist, and we actually we used the community to promote and get us on product hunt. So we sent everyone in our mobile growth community an email and said, hey, we just launched this app launch checklist on Product Hunt. And they all upvoted it, and we got to be on the front page of Product Hunt. And by the way, this also goes into my next topic. That really helped our SEO. And if you look for app launch checklist, that's the first thing that you'll find. But a lot of that came from the social, being able to share this on social and getting such a big community to help us upvote. So the results, in 2017, we had over 77 meetups. And 6% of all our enterprise leads came, and we had a ton of awareness. But and this was very disproportional with our budget. We only spent 2.5% of our marketing budget on meetups. And when we look at the ROI between how much they influenced in closed revenue, how much we spend, it's actually 80x for our meetups around the world. So the other experiment I want to talk about, and something that I think is very important for every startup to try, is content. So our blog is one of our biggest sources. We also started very early and very simple. We was just us, the founders, writing on topics. And we would look, it wasn't very scientific at the beginning. We tried to think, what are people searching for, and write something about it. But that, in time, became a lot more scientific. So we have all these keywords, and we actually run them through something like Moz or SEMrush. And we look at where is the biggest potential for us to actually get organic traffic. So we have a list, and then we assign it to people, and we ask them to write. So everyone in the company writes. So from marketing to sales to our CEO to engineering to support, they all write. But the interesting part is they don't just write about anything. I send them a list of 30 topics, and they have to pick one topic from there, then they write it. And then my team, the marketing team, goes and edits it. So SEO from non-branch keywords drives about 20% of all our enterprise leads, which is actually a lot considering we don't spend any money. It's all organic. And it drives more than 40% of our traffic. So one of the things, the really important lesson is to get organic traffic, it takes a while. So we started, about a year ago, we started translating all our top blog posts in other languages to get organic traffic in other countries. And we got nothing, so we stopped doing it. And now, a year later, I was looking through our metrics, and I'm like, wow, look at all the traffic we're getting in Japan and Korea. Where is this coming from? It's from those posts that we translated a year ago. So it takes time. When you go and you write this content, it won't work right away. But it's one of the most important investments you can make in your future. So start early. Understand that it won't work in the first few months. But give it about 6 months, and then you'll start seeing traffic from it. And be very scientific. Actually, write about things that you actually think will drive organic traffic. So lessons learned. I'm going to end with a few lessons. One is keep trying new things. Set aside 20 to 30% of your time and budget for experiments. Don't just focus on the things that work, because if you find something that works, others will copy it. Our meetups are being copied by our competition, and other people are doing it. So now my big thing is, what is the next big thing that can give me a leverage in the market? The other one is, and I guess I just talked about the SEO, but give experiments time to mature. So had we measured our meetups in those early days, we probably wouldn't have seen any revenue coming from them. It takes time. When I look at our leads, I see that sometimes someone came to a meetup a year ago, a year and a half ago, and then they invited 2 friends, and then those friends invited someone else. Especially if you're selling an enterprise, it actually takes a long time for you to see ROI. And it's very similar to SEO and organic traffic. Writing now will only give you benefits that you can reap about 6 months to a year from now. But I promise you it's worth it. And then the other thing, it's okay to fail. Expect to fail at least 50% of the time. Some of the things that we tried and didn't work is we tried organizing lunch and learns for a branch, and we did them for about a year, and we realized that just people weren't coming, they weren't working. We tried going to hackathons. Everyone says if you're going after developers, and Branch is a developer tool at the end of the day, go to hackathons. They didn't work for us. Branch is the type of tool that you use to grow your business, not to hack something together. So that advice didn't work. But we tried it. We went for about a year. We went to, I think, 30 hackathons, and then measured and realized that the people that we were meeting there weren't necessarily the people we were looking for. So it's very, very important that you understand that not everything that you try, maybe even the things you can try building a meetup community, you can even try SEO. It might be that your tool is not something that people are looking for. It might be that Pinterest ads are going to be the thing that work for you, or Snapchat ads. So just try something, measure it, give it a little bit of time to mature, and if it works, then keep scaling it. So that was it. I guess I'll leave you with the last advice. Just keep on building. The more you build, the more you learn, and it's okay to fail. So thank you, and I hope you learned something interesting today. Thank you.